Good afternoon once again. We're starting the second section in the afternoon section. And in this section, our presenter for this section is Jobs for the Future Development. And the chief presenter is Jenna, Dreier, and Artsy. And they will be speaking on employment to encounter stigma during and after prison. I want you all to know, when asking questions or making comments, please use person-first language, as we are committed to encountering humanization by adopting person-first language. During questions, please do not ask about crimes committed to any presenter at any time. Sit back and enjoy the presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on a Friday afternoon and after a long day of great events to listen in to this next session. My name is Jenna Dreier, and I'm a director at Jobs for the Future, focused in the Center for Justice and Economic Advancement. Super grateful to Ben Wright for joining me to join you all today to talk about what JFF is getting up to in this space, particularly when it comes to creating and supporting the creation of quality employment opportunities for people with experience of incarceration. So we will dive right in. I'm joined today by two of my three intended co-presenters. Unfortunately, my colleague at JFF, Sean Libby, is not able to present alongside me today, but I'll do my best to share some valuable context about some of the really exciting work that he is leading at our organization. And then I'm thrilled to be joined by two representatives of Hutchinson Community College, which is one of the college partners that JFF is working with as part of our Prison Education CTE Accelerator Network. So my thanks, Dave and Cindy, for joining us to talk a little bit about your on-the-ground work in support of students coming out of CTE programs. Here's just a quick look at what we're going to be up to in the 50 minutes that we have y'all today, and what we're hoping that folks walk away with. So the first is that we just want to focus on some of the levers that are necessary to ensure that every person with a record has a fair chance to secure a quality job and a better life. And those are really the levers that undergird the design of our center. And I'll talk more about that in just a moment. Then we wanted to spotlight some examples of colleges and organizations that we work with or that are in our broader network who have really great success stories of hiring staff or instructors who have lived experience completing their education in prison. And then we wanted to showcase Hutchinson Community College as one of our partnering colleges that's approaching the challenge of connecting their learners to quality jobs in some really great ways. So those are our goals for today. And I'm going to start us off with an overview of JFF Center for Justice and Economic Advancement and the why behind our center. So for those who might be unfamiliar with the larger organization, Jobs for the Future as a whole is a national nonprofit that drives transformation of the U.S. education and workforce systems with the goal of achieving equitable economic advancement for all. And our Center for Justice and Economic Advancement, or CJ for short, is an expression of that larger mission, but with a specific focus on opportunities for folks with records. The center launched just about 2 years ago, and we have 3 core efforts or portfolios of work: changing policies and systems, supporting employers in their fair chance employment efforts, and post-secondary attainment and talent development for people with records. So under each of those umbrellas, I'll speak just briefly to the work that we get up to. Under policy and advocacy, we focus on what we call normalizing opportunity. And by that, we mean advocating for state and federal policy solutions that remove barriers and establish conditions that create equitable advancement opportunities for people with records. So as part of that work, we're really committed to centering the thought leadership of those with lived experience of incarceration or other folks with records. And we do that in part through the publication of our Voices of Opportunity series, which is a blog series that's available on our website. And I'll point you in a few moments to some more information about where you can find it. Under our second portfolio of work, our work with employers, which we call employer change, we focus on fair chance employment initiatives, and we do that primarily by offering a 12-week cohort referred to as our fair chance corporate cohort, which helps employers learn both how they can tap into the diverse pool of talent that is available to them from this population, and also how they can create a more inclusive environment for folks to thrive in careers in their workplace. One exciting development to name about the work that we're doing in that space, and that I thought would be particularly relevant to this audience, is that we're currently at work, and this is one of the pieces that Sean is leading, in developing an updated version of our curriculum that would be specifically tailored to colleges and universities. Frequently, when we're in these spaces, our partners from colleges and universities are thinking about themselves as the folks who help prepare students to go on to employment, but we also really want to encourage colleges and universities to understand themselves as employers, and to think about the ways that they can prepare their HR professionals in different units across campus to work towards fair chance employment principles, and think about what that would look like at their college and university and make strides from where they're at now to where they'd like to be going forward. And then the final portfolio of our work, which I'll talk quite a bit more about today, is our talent development portfolio. And that's where we offer support to education and training providers who are offering credentialed pathways in prisons or other correctional facilities. So to talk a little more about that for just a moment, I want to give a quick shout out to a resource center that we launched last fall, and this is also the place where you can find that Voices of Opportunity series that I was naming a moment ago. The Normalizing Education Resource Center is a free online hub for college and corrections leaders to access new tools and resources that we're putting out in the field that are intended to help folks who are starting or expanding programs for incarcerated students. And our ultimate goal is to be working with these training providers and colleges to ensure that they're able to build pathways that lead students to quality jobs and to those real opportunities for economic advancement. So that's our kind of particular angle on this work. There's lots of great folks in this field with us doing this work, and we feature some of their terrific work as well. And so just as a quick plug for, as the folks on the previous presentation were mentioning, next month is Second Chance Month. And so we are very excited that that gives us an opportunity to release a slate of new resources and some fabulous content from our thought leaders who have lived experience. That's all scheduled to come out next month. So we hope that you'll check this out if you're interested in getting that content directly in your inbox. You can follow the link that's shown there on the screen, and that will take you to a sign-up page to get our bi-monthly newsletter and announcements about individual resources when they come out. Also, just want to name gratitude to Ascendium Education Group and the many different folks that we work with through our talent development portfolio at different colleges and universities, because our ability to create this resource center is really a result of the work that we've been doing in the field to learn from folks who have been standing up programs, to learn from their challenges and pain points and what resources are needed, and then to try to harness that learning into tools and resources that are available for other folks walking in those same steps and at different stages of their own program development. So huge gratitude to our funder, Ascendium, and also to the many college partners and subject matter experts from our networks who have contributed to the Resource Center. This, and I failed to mention one of the key initiatives that led to that was specifically our Ready for Pell network. We had 20 college partners and 2 state systems as part of Ready for Pell, which, as the name implies, were folks who were working with us because they wanted to either launch new programs or expand existing programs, knowing that Pell would be reinstated for folks inside starting in July of this past year. The other major initiative to date that we've offered in our talent development portfolio is the one you're going to hear a little bit more about today from Dave and Cindy, and this is our PEP CTE Accelerator Network. So the PEP network is a community of practice that specifically was culled together for those colleges and training providers that are offering career technical education pathways specifically inside facilities and have some sort of unique challenges that they face given that programming. And the community comes together to share best practices, explore common challenges, and access different resources, learn about what other folks are doing in their state and in other states. So you'll have a chance to hear a little bit more about Dave and Cindy's work as part of that network in a few moments. And also just wanted to quickly include this slide, which gives you a sense of some of the other members who make up that network. And so if there's folks, if you're joining virtually and there's folks in your area that you're interested in learning more about or connecting with, always put in the plug that we're very happy to be connectors and to get folks connected to other great work underway in their respective states. So don't ever hesitate to reach out, and we're happy to make some of those connections. All right, but before I turn it over to Dave and Cindy for their deep dive, I want to take a little bit of time to dive deeper into two of the examples of our work at JFF that I thought would be especially relevant to today's audience. So the first is our own recent success with hiring employees with lived experience to support our team. And this includes really a range of different kinds of experience. It includes folks like myself who have records. It includes folks who have lived experience of incarceration. And most recently, and perhaps notably given the barriers, it includes folks who are still currently incarcerated, like my colleague Sean Libby. And so JFF is part of a small cohort of organizations that has had the privilege of getting to work with Maine Department of Corrections to be able to play a trailblazing role in piloting quality remote work opportunities for folks who are currently incarcerated in Maine. And we're really excited about the fact that we've had that opportunity. It's meant that we were able to bring Sean in as a summer intern with us. He has since stayed on with us. As first on an extended internship and then on a part-time work, and we're really excited about opportunities to keep him on long-term. And we're thrilled that as a fully remote organization at JFF, what this means for us is that Sean participates as a regular employee in all of our day-to-day team meetings and activities. And while he's not able to travel to in-person conferences with us, he's been able to leverage a number of opportunities to present virtually on behalf of JFF, including as a virtual co-presenter during a session we led at the National Conference for Higher Education in Prison, and as a virtual host that folks could stop by and chat with at the JFF table that we staffed during that event. And I wanted to mention that specifically because as someone who had been to NCHET many years previously, but this time for the first time getting to work alongside a currently incarcerated colleague in that space, I really noticed that Sean's presence had a substantial impact on that session and on those conversations we were able to have with partners. And it was reminding me when Jessica Snow mentioned this about the impact that she felt that Victoria Scott had in her virtual presence at Hill Day. When you're really meeting with somebody face to face, it just makes a difference. And so particularly at the NCHEP audience, where there are alumni of programs who didn't have that opportunity while inside, but got to chat with Sean about what he's experiencing getting to work while he's still incarcerated, what it's like to be part of the JFF team. And then also with leaders of programs who want to see these opportunities be possible for their students and alumni, but aren't yet seeing that possible. It's an inspiring example of where we're hopefully headed in this field. So really just want to name and lift up the value of being able to bring a team member with virtually to presentations. In part two, because the lived experience is really so critical to the work that we're all trying to do, and having that front and center continues to be a priority at JFF, and I know at many of our partner organizations in the field. Also just want to take one moment to be really honest. I've appreciated some of the vulnerability in the other presentations to say that even though I work with Sean pretty much every day, there's still moments where it really strikes me how novel it is that we get to work together in the ways that we do. Prior to joining JFF, I was leading a prison education program based in Minnesota. And so I was someone who was in facility on a day-to-day basis, working with students who are running into the kind of barriers and stigmas that this conference is dedicated to, working with university leaders to try to convince them to invest in the program and the opportunity for these students and alumni. And so I daily had the experience of sort of running headlong into those barriers and really, started to absorb a lot of that. And I spent so much time in spaces where the answer is no, that I really continued to look around me and be surprised and excited around how many yeses I'm starting to see in some really exciting ways across our field. So wanted to name that and wanted to name that while the overall goal is, and at JFF in particular, is for this to feel normal, for that educational opportunity to feel normal, normal, for that economic work opportunity to feel normal. We are still very much in a point where it is new and it is novel. And so hope I can kind of hold folks up in the space today and say, like, we talked a lot about all the things that are really, really hard. There's also so much to celebrate at this moment and so many really amazing strides that are being made in the field in the last couple of years, and good reason to think that momentum will continue. Okay, we're also, just to name some of the language that I really appreciate that Unlocked Labs, another partner in the field, uses, we're seeing more and more of the people closest to the problem who are being prepared, credentialed, and equipped to join the teams who are working to solve those problems. And I'm so hugely grateful to see that work show up in so many presentations at this conference. I want to turn next to one other example, and this is a project that Sean is leading, and I had hoped he'd be able to speak to himself, but I'll do my best to cover it as well as I can, of an area where we're really trying to inspire others to think about how they can hire folks with lived experience into their organizations. And one way that we're tackling that is by approaching some of the partners in the field who have had particularly notable successes with hiring. And in this case, our focus is on folks who lead prison education programs or affiliated organizations who have been able to hire folks with lived experience onto their teams in a wide variety of different roles. Given JFF's investment in helping colleges see how they can create pathways into quality jobs for their alumni and for other prison education programs, we wanted to create a comprehensive resource that would help program leaders in the field learn more about these different success stories that are out there, prepare those leaders and the alumni and job candidates who are going through those processes to anticipate some of the most common barriers and stigmas they'd likely run into when trying to make those successful hires, and then provide some tips and strategies for overcoming those barriers based on folks who have been through it before. So in order to gather this information, Sean conducted a series of in-depth interviews with a number of different program leaders that have had some kind of notable success with hiring directly impacted folks onto their staff. He then partnered with Daniel Throop, who's a contract writer who worked with us here at JFF, and who some of you may know through his work with the National Prison Debate League, to then turn those interviews into a series of written profiles on these different colleges and their successful hiring stories. So each profile offers an exploration of how one of the following common barriers was overcome to make a successful hire. And these barriers are restrictive hiring practices at colleges and universities, which many of us are deeply familiar with, restrictive college and university policies around allowing people with records to have a physical presence on campus. So finding in some cases that even if the barrier wasn't to hiring them, that there might be additional hidden barriers to come in getting those folks onto campus. And then a couple coming out of the Department of Corrections side of things that are really common. Restrictions around letting people with personal associations or records re-enter facilities after release to be able to do that program work. If you're not able to come into the facility where a program is offered, it makes it tremendously harder for you to play a leadership role in that program. Similarly, DOCs often have restrictions around letting people who are currently incarcerated be in a position of power or authority over others. So trying to hire someone who's currently incarcerated in the facility you serve to be a teacher or a staff member who would have authority over students in the program is something that can be really hard to achieve. And then finally, there's commonly correctional restrictions around wages and how much you can pay folks if they're currently in DOC custody. And then universities likewise, of course, have policies that require that they pay folks a fair wage. And so those policies can often come into conflict. So while I'm not able to go into depth on each of the profiles, given the time and wanting to make sure I leave plenty for Dave and Cindy to talk about their work, I want to just give a quick sort of highlight level view of each of the different profiles that will make up this series so that folks have sort of a sense of what some of these different examples look like. So one interview dove into a conversation with Andrea Cantora from the University of Baltimore, which focused on the career center that they have that goes into the prison and engages with students to help them find work upon release. They've also been successful in hiring students for roles in their Office of Technology Services and their Office of Student Engagement. They've worked with the university to embrace fair chance hiring practices and bring formerly incarcerated folks into other roles, and they've hired a formerly incarcerated reentry coordinator. Another interview explored the momentum that Deb Arthur and Nali Servanve have seen at Portland State University. Thanks to a Ready for Pell grant from Ascendium, Deb was able to hire Nali as the first full-time employee supporting the program back in 2022. And Nali has since been promoted from the Pell Readiness Counselor to the director of that program, effectively replacing Deb, who now serves in an advisory role. And really love this quote from Deb where she said, "It was time for me to exit stage left and just be of service where I can be." So a really powerful example of recognizing the importance of leadership being with those who have the lived expertise and someone making space and creating opportunity for a program alum or someone with lived experience to step into that leadership role. Portland State has also been successful in hiring a rebound coordinator to assist formerly incarcerated students making the transition to campus who is personally impacted. Another interview featured perhaps one of the better known examples, which is the folks at Adams State, who Lauren Reed and Jim Bullington have successfully hired currently incarcerated instructors to serve as adjunct professors in that program, and they're able to pay them real living wages, which is a very exciting precedent to see in the field. They also have a program leader who was formerly incarcerated. Another interviewee was Chris Eggins of NJ STEP, short for the New Jersey STEP Scholarship and Transformative Education in Prison program. He'll tell me later if I butchered that. But he's their ED, and he refers to himself as the glue or the middleman for everyone. The first hires that Chris was able to make were for system impacted folks who served as peer-to-peer counselors and transition team members. And then he really felt that it was essential to ensure that folks who it was essential to ensure employment opportunities on a practical level for folks earning degrees in prison, recognizing there's an inherent expertise in navigating a carceral setting. And so he saw then alumni being faculty in the program as the next phase that he wanted to tackle. And when some counterproductive barriers got in the way, one really great example of overcoming them is Chris went directly to the university's high-risk hires committee and gave them a lesson on how background checks work, how they could update their processes. And as a direct result, those decisions are now not made in a vacuum, and instead much fairer consideration is given to impacted candidates. Sean also interviewed Lila McDowell from Hudson Link. As folks may know, they are in 6 facilities in New York with 11 college partners, and well over half of their staff are formerly incarcerated. And finally, Raquel Pinder-Hughes is the ED of Roots of Success, which is an environmental literacy and job training program that offers federally recognized and state recognized apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs. And Roots of Success is the only pre-apprenticeship program that is taught and run by incarcerated individuals who are paid full-time to run the program and teach the courses in facility. Many of the teachers are folks who are serving long or life sentences. It is important context to note that these internal jobs refer to jobs that pay standard DOC wages, so they are not real world fair wages. However, this is still a really impressive and innovative model and a huge step in the right direction for normalizing career pathways for system impacted people, because it begins to change the perceptions of what is possible in corrections. So that's my quickish overview of the different profiles that make up the larger resource, which is on track to be released to our resource center later this spring or early in the summer. So if these stories and learning more about the hows that we got to see folks in these amazing roles is of interest to you, we hope very much that you will sign up for Resource Center updates and check it out when that drops. And with that, I'm going to wrap up my portion of the presentation and hand it over to our CTNE network partners from Hutchinson Community College to talk a little bit about how one of the colleges that we're partnering with is working to connect the dots between prison education and access to quality jobs on the ground in their state. Cindy and Dave, the mic is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for allowing us to share a little bit about what we do here at Hutchinson. I am the education coordinator for Hutchinson Community College. I'm located in Hutchinson Correctional Facility, and we are contracted with this state to provide both adult basic education and post-secondary education. And I'm just going to give a quick little overview of kind of what the steps are, how the flow goes, I guess you could say. So I'm going to start with the ABE, our Adult Basic Education GED program. And we have what's called Education Navigators. And we have 2 of them here. And they start with the orientation with the GED students, just to present what we do, what we offer, and to help with exciting them in their educational roadway into continuing education. So once they finish their GED, hopefully they will be excited about continuing it and come to us for their college and post-secondary. So we give them support while they're attending classes. At that orientation, they complete an education and employment plan so that we know what direction they want to start with and go from there. If they have time, once they finish their GED, and if they have time to complete college or even start in that pathway, we'll give them an application for the college program that we have here at the facility and complete their financial aid applications. If they do not have time for college due to being released, we are going to refer them to the TRIO group and Workforce Center. And then we also have BOC has a career navigator who we can also refer them to. TRIO comes in once a month, meets with those students to help them apply for college, help them to complete their financial aid applications and whatever else they might need or want as they walk out the doors. Once they're in college, we again have orientation with new students. Our job is to advise and do educational counseling and planning, and we are here to support them throughout their college semesters to help continue and help it make it a smooth road for them. Being incarcerated, it's difficult in the building itself. We have both in-person and online tablet classes. And then we also have study halls for the men. I'm sorry, I have to say men because I'm in a men's correctional facility. Then pre-release, we about 6 months prior to them releasing. By the way, everything here is student driven. So when we are meeting with them in the very beginning, we are talking to them about what their path looks like, what it is they want to do. Do they want to do welding? Do they want to do business? Do they want the different avenues that we offer? We want to know exactly which path we're going to lead them to, and that helps us steer our advising. But we have continuum of services. About 6 months before release, the community college business and industry advisor will be coming in once a month to meet with those who are about to walk out the door. And we're looking at those anyone from 6 months to a year, maybe. And then we also have the apprenticeship coordinator comes in, meets with our students in class. And Dave will cover more about the apprenticeship side of things here in a few minutes. So I'm not going to go in great detail about that. We also have TRIO here. If there's something that we are not able to do, they can carry on with our students. And again, we work closely with our workforce centers so that we can give referrals and addresses. We want to give them in as much information as they can before they release, where they can make those connections, as well as our career navigator hired by the Department of Corrections. That is a quick overview of some of the steps we go through and as the students navigate through the schooling here at the correctional facility. And I'm going to pass it on over to Dave and let him fill in all the cracks that I might have missed.
Thank you. I'm Dave Mullins. I'm the director of the Business and Industry Institute at Hutchinson Community College, and one of the areas in business and industry is our prison education programs. I guess today there are second chance Pell programs. They're going to become prison education programs, kind of using the terms interchangeably now. We, as Cindy mentioned, we do both GED education and we do post-secondary education. We serve 100 folks a year in GED education, and over 100 a year in post-secondary. And our post-secondary is on the career and technical education side, as Jenna mentioned earlier. We have focused on our Associate of Applied Science degree in applied technology. That's a multidisciplinary degree. And contained within that is a certificate in business, which Cindy mentioned is an online offering. We're doing it currently on tablets, and then we'll be doing it on laptops beginning in the fall. And then we also do some face-to-face classes that are construction, so they can get a construction certificate. And then in the fall, we'll be adding welding. So they'll be able to get a certificate A or a certificate B, so 16 or 32 credits in welding beginning in the fall. And then those different disciplines add together with some general education credits to make that a associate in applied science degree. So that's a little background on what we do. We serve folks at three security level facilities, or units as they're called in our the prison that we serve, Hutch Correctional Facility. We have a maximum security unit that we have classes at. We have a medium security unit, and then we have a minimum security unit that we primarily serve via the online classes. And so the connection back to employers, we do have Hutchinson is very much an industry focused prison, meaning we have a number of private industries that partner with the prison on what layman's terms would be, like a work release for the minimum security folks. They can go out and work in a supervised role in industry in the outside, and they may travel up to an hour away from home, if you will, to work in some various industries. And we do talk to employers at those outside industries about working with our students, both while they're incarcerated and after. And then we have a number of employers on inside the walls that are also interested in our students. We have some manufacturers in the facility, including a newer facility a newer employer that is hiring welders, and they're very excited about our new welding program that is there at the prison. So I think you could go ahead and advance the slide there. Our next, so we have in connecting with employers, we bring in some industry partners to talk to our students, both about employment opportunities that might be available at their company for somebody who has who's experienced incarceration, but also telling of their life story so that they can tell a little bit of a story of hope. Some of the people are not necessarily incarcerated, but that ability to kind of identify that somebody had bootstrapped their way up through the industry is valuable, I think. So we also have our apprenticeship coordinator. She comes in and talks to students at least every semester in several of our different classes, and the different in the different locations about apprenticeship opportunities that are available upon release. And then we have a new opportunity with Kansas Works. There's a grant that they've got through the Office of Apprenticeship that is sponsoring some pre-apprenticeship activity. So some of the classes, especially the construction classes that we've got, the other building trades classes we've got, and the welding classes we've got, can qualify if someone is close to release as a pre-apprenticeship that could hopefully transition someone from that pre-apprenticeship into an apprenticeship on the outside when they release. Cindy mentioned some of the different things that we're doing to assist in the release process, in the preparing folks for release. Cindy's background, that was her role. She came to us from the Department of Corrections. She was a release services coordinator. And so she has a wealth of background there. She mentioned how we have our releasing students or past students, alumni, if you will, that have done classes with us to work with the advisor from main campus on what their transition plan is afterwards. If they're going to come to one of our other attendance centers, or if they want to continue, we do in Hutchinson, we're rural. We're about an hour outside of Wichita. A lot of our students, when they release, may release to a larger metropolitan area, say Wichita or Topeka or Kansas City, and may not be able to come to one of our attendance centers, but they could still finish their business certificate or potentially finish their degree online if they chose to with us. Or he may also help them transition to another college in the area that they're releasing to. We also have our career services coordinator meet with those folks upon release, and then also come speak to our classes about what career services are available, just like we would students on our main campus, so that they have that same experience. And then we are on main campus. We have a huge job fair that happens next week. This job fair attracts we have about 200 employers represented at this job fair. And one thing we've been talking about is being able to do a job fair inside the facility. And so we're at the beginning stages of it. We don't have permission to do it yet or anything like that, so I don't want to be too far ahead of myself. But as a part of our larger career fair, we are asking employers, are you what is your role? What are your views on second chance employment, on fair chance employment, right? So we ask in the survey question that will go to all of these employers that participate, do they ask individuals on an application if they've committed a felony on the job applications? Do they hire formerly incarcerated folks, either as a general rule or on a case-by-case basis? Do they consider themselves a second chance employer? And then would they be willing to come talk to our classes and share what's available at their company, just like we would have folks come into a welding class or a business class on campus, if they would be willing to come into class and talk about what opportunities that they have for employment at their company. And then we also are asking, would they participate in a career fair at the correctional facility? So trying to get some data on that to see if we could pull something like that off. We have we've got some good hopes for that. We're also doing a lot more with the our Kansas workforce partners to enroll them, make sure they're enrolled in their reentry services, so that we've got both the college talking to students about reentry, but also Kansas Works, because we want them not only be able to continue on with school, but having a job upon release, especially if it's in a meaningful career, I think is very important to the success of individuals as they move forward in their life. So a lot more intentionality on that respect, and hopefully we can continue to grow. I think here we're getting close to the end of our presentation, and I would open it up for Q&A, and I think there's some folks that might ask us some things that are in the Q&A. So I'll pass that on, right? I'm not sure who I'm passing it over to. Maybe it's Jenna.
Yes, we're ready to take questions. Thank you so much.
I apologize. My maintenance man showed up right as we ended the session, and my mother had no idea what was going on, so I had to make sure that that was taken care of. We do have a couple of questions in the chat. So this one is a two-part question. What can SNHU do to further push against the stigma, and what can SNHU potentially do with JFF to help build up Project AIM's initiative and PEP programs within New Hampshire?
Love that question. I'll take the first stab, but then Dave and Cindy, if you have thoughts too from your perspective on the ground at a college, welcome your thoughts too. Would love to know more about where kind of the greatest pain points are with stigma, because I think that shapes the answer to the question. Again, with each college and university, the barriers tend to look a little bit different, but one kind of blanket recommendation that I can make is it's always helpful to start with a conversation. If you are running into a particular barrier, our team would be very happy to connect, chat about kind of how that's surfacing and in what unit, and think about where we might be a valuable thought partner in overcoming that particular barrier. As more of a long-term investment, if you think there are folks at the university that would be interested in participating in our Fair Chance corporate cohort, especially as we launch this new version for college leaders, we are going to be actively recruiting very soon for folks to participate in that, and would love in particular to have some of our friends and family colleges that we've partnered with in other ways participate and help us continue to shape that curriculum. And it's really intended to equip folks who want to be doing this work but need some guidance around what are the different questions I'm going to run into, what are some of the things that I want to think about at the forefront, how can I think about how my job descriptions are written in different ways as we move forward, and things like that. So from my angle, those are some of the first things coming to mind, and would be curious, Dave and Cindy, if there are other things coming to your mind as you think about the first part of the question, which is just what can a general college do to push against stigma more broadly? Are there things that you're seeing in your experience that would lend any particular advice to that question?
Yeah, I think I can take a stab at that. I think one thing I focus on here is the reality that our employers have. Our employers are faced with, in our area, about a 2% unemployment rate, and I focus on what their need is. Right, they're looking for employees in an environment where employees are very hard to find, and so I suggest not only for the correctional population, but for some of our disability populations as well, that there are segments of the potential workforce that have much higher unemployment and underemployment rates than others, and so it is an opportunity for them, right? So I present it not just as a you need to experiment, and you need to be a better citizen, and you need to consider hiring somebody that has a record. But I want to appeal to their selfish side, if I can say that in a positive way, right? Like, here's an opportunity to find folks where your competitors cannot, right? Or your competitors aren't looking right now. So I think because when you do that, you can get some companies that have some success, and then when you have some success, then you can go talk with other companies, and they'll ask, well, how is ABC company doing this? Where are they finding employees? And that becomes actual experience, and that's how we stop the stigma. That's how we address the stigma, is we get some people out there in real life, right? So I think appeal to their bottom line and say, here's a place you can find employees, have some experience with folks that have been formerly incarcerated or currently incarcerated, and because of that, then they've got some experience, and they can share that with others.
Love that. Thanks so much. Before we go to the next question, just one other note that I wanted to add is so much of the work is narrative change and myth busting, and I'm really appreciative of events like this that are designed around doing some of that myth busting on a campus with a both in-person and virtual audience. So really appreciative of the efforts put forward already and excited about other ways to partner going forward.
I would also add, we have had some very positive feedback from employers that have come in to both to our classes or to our graduations, and they realize what a good classroom we've got. You know, what good students these folks are. What a meaningful graduation it is, and just seeing people face to face makes a huge difference. So invite them to your classes.
That is awesome. It is good to have a person-to-person experience. I really enjoyed that. So this is kind of on target with the same question. And this is for Cindy or David. What kind of advertising or marketing do you do to get information out to folks currently incarcerated, their families, etc.?
Cindy, I'll let you take that one.
Well, I'll take that. We don't have to do any advertising. It spreads like wildfire within the students. They are excited and so appreciative that they have the opportunity to go to college, and the word just spreads. So we don't really need to do any advertising. They also carry backpacks that have Hutch Community College written on them, and they are the only ones that carry them, so that's kind of cool for them. It takes very little. Once the word got out amongst them that, hey, Hutch Community College is here, and I want that opportunity. And I think our CTE area is very well welcomed, that they want it. They want that education, and they're just craving it, and are very, very excited about being able to go to college. So I don't know what I would suggest to you for advertising, other than get the word out that you're here and you're there, you're here and you want to help. And we build really good relationships with our students, I believe. So they know we have an open door here. They ring our doorbell. We have a doorbell for us here in the prison, and they're welcome to come in at any time and talk to us. And they know that. So it helps. I hope that.
Okay, we're going to do one more question virtually, and then we have one question from the audience as far as I know, and then we will end this session. This is to everyone. What are the biggest challenges you are facing in the work you are currently doing?
I can see Dave and Cindy thinking, so I'll give them a second and answer from the JFF perspective. I would say one of the biggest challenges that we're facing in our center is that we're moving into an era of work where we're recognizing the importance of getting everyone in a given place in communication about what they're doing and how to best coordinate their efforts in support of this population. And so I think we have a lot of folks who lead programs who we work with currently who get really overwhelmed about kind of having a sense of the landscape of who else in my state is an advocate for this work, who else is offering programs and facilities, who are those fair chance employers that I want to be building partnerships with, who are the workforce leaders and entities I want to be partnering with. And so one of the things we're really excited about is over the coming year, we're going to be leading into that need and starting to do more work to bring stakeholders in a given state together for strategic planning across all of the different partners that are invested in this same goal. But I do just want to name that I know it's it's a source of tremendous overwhelm, especially for folks like the Dave and Cindy's of the world who are doing the on-the-ground work and trying to tap into really large ecosystems in particular places. So JFF is hopeful that we can help with supporting the development of those ecosystems in ways that don't overtax and put folks who are already over capacity in these really challenging roles even further over capacity as they work on those efforts.
On the education side of things, I think our wait list is a challenge. Cindy mentioned we don't have to advertise. So we've got a number of students that are wanting to get in that we don't yet have the capacity for, and so we're trying to be able to grow at a reasonable pace, but serve as many students as we can. That's a challenge. And we're very new on the some of the additional reentry services that we're talking about. So I think the challenge there is we don't know what we don't know yet, right? So opportunities to come together and learn from other folks that are doing it is important. We're looking to travel to some other colleges that have more extensive reentry services to see what we can do to learn from them. So those are some of the things. Cindy, do you have anything that you think to add for challenges?
I was going to say the same thing. I think it's the interest is larger than what we have seats for. So yeah, that's the biggest challenge on my end. Yeah.
So we've been challenged on. We had a welding advisory board meeting in the fall, and we were challenged in that meeting of how can we grow our total welding program completers by 400%. How can we increase the output by 4x? We've got some pretty big programs, right? So adding the program at the prison is one way we can accomplish that. We're working. One nice thing about this idea of stopping the stigma is we're trying to grow the available workforce for our employers, and this is just another place where we can get them for just like I mentioned about talking to them about their needs and where they can find employees that they can't find today. So.
Okay. I'm so sorry. There's one more question from the audience, the live audience. Are we going to be able to take that, Ben? Okay, we're going to go ahead and take that one from the live audience real quick. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. So this is predominantly for JFF, who I love. They're fantastic. Regarding the employment of people currently in custody, I'm curious to know if there are barriers in terms of like how much money they can have in their account, if they have garnishments on their account, what happens to their wages. And the other piece is like, can they file their taxes? Some states won't allow them to have anything with their social security number on it. And then the last component is for private employers, like higher education is a little bit insulated, but other employers are concerned about the stigma of hiring people who are in custody because of the legacy of underpayment. Like, even though they're paying a living wage, they don't want to be associated. Like, there's no distinction between labor that some consider exploitative and some fair market. And I'm wondering if you've come across that or how you would deal with that stigma on the employer side.
So that was a big final question. I'll take some pieces of it and then happy to connect more too. On the first half, around thinking about what kind of barriers, challenges do you run into in like actually getting folks paid, actually making sure that they have access to those funds. I will not pretend that it's a simple process, and I haven't personally been in some of those weeds, but I do know, for instance, as we look to move towards full-time opportunities, another big question to add to your list is how can we offer health benefits, you know, that are the equitable with what we offer to folks who are other JFF employees if the person receiving them doesn't have access to the services we have access to. And so there's a tremendous amount of additional questions. One thing I'm really excited about that will help answer them is that we are working on a sort of case study with the Maine Department of Corrections around what this pilot project has looked like, what some of those key questions are, so that other folks who are invested in moving in this direction have some sense of what questions they want to start asking, what they want to start building towards, and we can all learn as a field. I think it's, as with so many things, as with prison education programs themselves, right? It's always going to come with those growing pains as we learn how to do the work in the best possible ways. But as I was naming, so exciting to see a pilot like this that's breaking some really new ground. As for the second part of your question around stigmas with employers, I will say that we do see tensions around employers about whether or not they're out with their sort of fair chance hiring status, if that makes sense. And I think that's hopefully, and I think this ties into a question that others can't see, but that was in the Q&A too, around how does that equate to larger public perception change? The more employers that we bring in and that are part of these cohort models where they're seeing the other folks doing it, where they're recognizing that they're by no means alone as an organization standing up for these values. And as we see that network continue to grow and to grow and to grow, that both makes it easier for other employers to join the movement. And also that trickles down into our public perceptions, because the more folks that are in your workplace as part of fair chance hiring initiatives, the more folks you're having those in-person interactions with, getting to know, building relationships with, and that's how we change perception. As Dave was naming, as Cindy was naming, the same way when you bring someone into facility and it changes everything about how they perceive this population, get them into the workplace, get them into your company culture in a supportive way that they can stay there with you, and you'll see that change happen there as well.
That was awesome. Thank you so much to Jenna, Dave, and Cindy for your presentation. And thank you everyone for attending this wonderful, invigorating session by Jobs for the Future. What a wonderful opportunity. Now we will have a break for the virtual audiences from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. From 4 to 6 p.m. in the SNHU world over there, you guys are going to have an exhibition hour where you can take advantage of the local community resources. Dr. Matthews can speak to that. And then at 6, please remember that we will be having a award ceremony, and that is going to be accessed through a separate link and not the one that you used for this one. If you need help with that, please let us know. At 6 p.m., we're going to have a keynote speaker, Ryan Hopkins, and that is a very powerful speaker. At 6:30, we will have the award ceremony honoring 6 community champions, a community partner, and the SNHU champion. Our very own president, Dr. Paul LeBlanc, will be in attendance. We are very excited, and we hope to see you all at 6.